The budget was a really important step in the journey. If you think back that the last time a Fianna Fáil minister that made a finance minister made a budget speech, it was Brian Lennon, and I know he was in many of our minds when Michael McGrath stood to propose the finance element of the budget. And one of the main reasons for that is that, as the previous deputy said, there were such difficult decisions the last time the minister, Fianna Fáil finance minister, stood up to speak. And I think those lessons have not been lost on many people in this House, across the House, and that is that there is an obligation on all of us that in proposing measures that they be sustainable, and that we never again go back to a situation where we have to make reductions, whatever about not being able to increase, but the idea of making reductions that then lead to service reductions, I think is something we want to avoid, and I think something that was very much foremost in the minds of both ministers. I also think that the huge economic success of Ireland over the last number of years, having come out of Brexit and all of its threats, having come out of COVID and to still be growing, to come out of the war in Ukraine, although it is still going on, and then the international inflationary crisis. Throughout all of that, the Irish economy has grown, and it has created the resources to allow government ministers and government departments to implement programmes. And we shouldn't underestimate that when you have a government that is pro-jobs and creates jobs, it allows you the resources to be able to tackle some of the systemic issues like child poverty and so on. So I do welcome all of the measures in the budget, but the principal one we have to welcome is the fact that we had a surplus, the fact that we didn't have to borrow, and the fact that we could spend where we did. And I also welcome the two elements of the budget that were based on unsustainable taxes, because we also remember the last time there were unsustainable taxes that were spent. We did not put enough money aside, and by spending unsustainable taxes, they created an imbalance in the national accounts. And you have to come back to the two funds, the Ireland Future Fund and the Infrastructure Sustainability Fund, so that never again will a government have to prevent or stop a national programme like the Metro programme. This fund will be there now, and should be there now, and I would call on the opposition who are proposing that they would be in government that they support these two programmes, because these two funds are a commitment to future generations, to my children who are 12 and 15, that we're saying to them, we are investing now for your future, because we know that for climate action, for demographic changes around ageing, and for a whole range of other issues, we're investing in the future. And I would call on opposition to commit to those funds now, that they will also invest in those, so it delivers the result of 100 billion that was indicated by the ministers. Look, I won't go through all the measures of the budget. We've already had that over and over for many different deputies, but I think it's worth commenting on the way that we've tackled the social welfare payments. It's really important that we don't exacerbate inflation. We have had increases in the core rate, and there was a lot of people who doubted that we would not do that again. And I know many people were fearful that the once-off payments wouldn't result in us repeating that again also. Because if we're to increase the core rate alone, that is embedding inflation for a longer period of time. Where by using the once-off measures, it gives us the flexibility to change that overall payment over time. If you take all of the payments and you divide them out, certainly the core rates of social welfare are close to €20, and I think that is a very strong statement that we're here to protect some of the most vulnerable people, but we're doing it in a sustainable way that allows us to react when inflation comes back, and hopefully it will come back to 2.9% next year. And at the same time, we're indexing tax rates, prioritising the lowest earners in those tax rates so that we have a fair society.
Thank you.